at a fairly high level in table tennis growing up, and until about age 18 or 19. Then I focused on tennis for a while. And pickleball found me at a great time because I was winding down my competitive tennis career. I played for about 24 years, I played USTA league tennis. And about 13 or 14 years ago, I found pickleball when my parents moved from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Surprise, Arizona. And those of you that know Surprise, Arizona, like Ron Ponder does, we all know it's one of the pickleball capitals of the world. And I was playing tennis with my dad down there in his retirement community. And there were like 100 people playing pickleball on 25 pickleball courts. And I said to my dad, what in the world is that? And I think 2006 or 2007. And after we were playing tennis, we were watching these guys play for a while, and a bunch of guys left, and they needed a body to be a fourth player. So this guy comes behind the fence, comes off the court, sticks a paddle in my face, and he says, "Hey kid, get out here, we need a fourth." And I said, "You don't want me? I can't even spell pickleball. I've never even." He sticks this paddle in my face. He goes, "Get out here now." And some of you might know this name. This was my first teacher in pickleball. His name was Pat Kane. I know, Ron, I know you're going to know that name.
I recognize it, yeah.
He's now 85 years old, but at the time, he was about 69 or 70 or so, and he was one of the best players in the world. And he brought me on the court and put me at the kitchen line. He said, "This is the kitchen." And these guys taught me how to play. And that was my introduction to pickleball. And I was very fortunate early on in my pickleball life between guys like Pat Kane and John Grasso, Jim Hackenberg. I'm going to forget people. Steve Wong, Justin Rogers, Gigi LeMaster. These folks took me and my family kind of under their wing and taught us how to play. And that is how I found pickleball. And we didn't really have pickleball in the state of Wisconsin back then. So my first really 5 years of pickleball was playing 3 weeks out of the year in Arizona when we would go visit my parents for winter break. So that was that's a long story to how I found pickleball. And then we worked with our local park and rec department here in Madison, Wisconsin, and got them to agree to change 2 tennis courts into 6 dedicated pickleball courts. And that was about 5 years ago. So now we have several different pickleball court complexes here in Madison, Wisconsin. The next question is, what inspired you to start playing pickleball and keep going? So I already answered that. On the courts, you are called the Badger. What's the history behind that? Or is it just because Badger is the official state animal of Wisconsin, your home state? That's a really good question. I get that pretty much everywhere I go. I've done clinics in I think 22 or 23 of our 50 states, and my goal is to get to all of the states. But that's a question I get everywhere is, why are you called the Badger? I'm trying to remember who first called me that. Because I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and went to the University of Wisconsin. The University of Wisconsin's nickname is the Badgers. So I think my friends in Arizona started calling me that. I think it was Justin Rogers and Scott Stone and Gigi, and that started really early on. Even before I started playing tournaments, I got to be known as the Badger. And that's where it all started, is because I went to the University of Wisconsin, and the nickname for UW-Madison is the Badgers. And Badgers are pretty feisty, and they like to battle and compete, and they don't back down from anybody or anything. So that kind of stuck.
Pretty much describes you.
I was about to say, appropriate.
The next question is, do you prefer playing men's pro or senior pro? And this is another question I get a lot because I just turned 50 last year. So I started playing a few senior events. And to be honest, I like playing both. But if
50 is not senior.
Yeah, if you push me, I would say
50
I
is no
still
40.
prefer playing the men's pro because I still want to play against the best. And obviously the best players are not in the 50 plus. However, there are some great players that we have in the 50 plus, and we got new guys coming in all the time into the senior level. But I still feel that I can compete against the top players in the world. I've been lucky enough to be in, I think, 5 of the 6 last finals in men's majors in the pro. In fact, Matt Wright and I had 2 match points last year against Johns and Yates in the finals of nationals, and didn't finish it off. But so
And guys, let me say here, Dave, that if you haven't seen a pro match, the main difference between pros and all of us certainly is just the speed with which they move. They are so freaking quick. You cannot believe it. So for Dave to hang in there with those guys is pretty amazing. He's pretty extraordinary.
I get that question a lot. People ask, Dave, what are the main differences between playing pro and senior pro? And as Ron said, the speed, the footwork and the foot speed is huge. But you know what probably is even a bigger thing is the hand speed and the power in the hands. And that's the thing about pickleball, that people talk a lot about, hand speed and how quick so-and-so person's hands are. And, I think it's the combination of power and speed in the hands that makes the player so effective. When people ask me, who has the best combination on earth in pickleball of hand speed and power? Number 1 is Ben Johns, and number 2 is Matt Wright. And then I think there's kind of a drop off. So it's not just the quickness of the hands, folks. It's the power in the hands, which is hard to appreciate on video, as a lot of you know that have been to major tournaments and be able to watch these great talents play. So I would say that's the biggest difference between senior pro and men's pro, is not just the footwork and the foot speed that Ron mentioned. It's the power and the quickness in the hands and the anticipation. All right, let's see. Our next question doesn't say who these questions are from. It just lists the questions. What division do you enjoy most? Men's doubles or mixed doubles? I would have to say that men's pro doubles is my personal favorite event, because you get the longest points and there's more strategy involved, and you just get these great rallies. When you get 4 high-level players on one court, and all you guys know this because you've watched a lot of pickleball, probably in person and on video, but men's doubles is just so enjoyable. I mean, for me, I don't do pickleball for a living. It's not a job to me. It's a game. So yes, there's more money in it, and that's great. I play for the love of the game, and for me, it's a way to get my competitive instincts and my competitive juices flowing. What I play now at a real competitive level. Everything else I do now is pretty much recreational in terms of sports and activities. So I still love to compete against the top players. I'd rather play against the best players in the world and get 3rd or 4th place than play, in, let's say, a senior event and really not get challenged too much, to be honest with you. So I know we're going back and forth to these different questions, but I love mixed too.
Dave?
Enough to have some really great mixed doubles partners over the years, and recently been playing a lot of senior mixed with Chris Anderson, who was from Southern California, and just a tremendous talent. Chris is, and she's just so much fun to play with. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen some of our matches in person and on video, and always smiling and joking and chest bumping, and that's the fun for me. Singles is a little bit of a different animal. I enjoy singles. When I was younger, I really enjoyed it more. I've been lucky enough to win some nationals, 35 plus titles and US Open in singles. And now I play a lot of the senior singles, and I'll continue to do that as long as I have my health. So I enjoy singles, but I would say that's a third. I would rate men's doubles number 1, mixed doubles number 2 for me, and singles number 3 in terms of my pure enjoyment of the game. You're 50 now, but can still compete at the highest pro level against players who are half your age or younger. How is that possible? That's a good question. You know, that's one of the beauties of pickleball is I don't care if you're 18 or 26 or 35 or in my case 50. If you have mastered the fundamentals of the game and you have your health and you take care of your body and you take care of your brain, because let's face it, the mental aspect of this game is so underappreciated and underrated in my opinion. I did a call the other night with Coach Dottie and Coach Dane Gingrich, and we spent almost an hour on, you know, how I approach the game mentally and how I talk to my partners and motivate my partners. And that's a good piece. If you didn't get a chance to see it, that's available online. But to answer this question, I think if you've mastered the fundamentals of the game and all the different, you know, shots and how to execute the shots and understand and have a pretty good pickleball IQ, there's no reason at 50 and 52 and 53 and 55 you can't compete with players that are half your age. And I think that's one of the coolest things in all of pickleball is that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can still compete with kids half your age. And honestly, that's kind of an internal challenge for me. And I get that question a lot is how long are you going to continue to play men's pro versus just exclusively senior? And people say, oh, you make more money if you just played senior and all that. And, you know, that's not necessarily my motivation in pickleball. My motivation in pickleball is to not only play against the best, but beat them and challenge them. And that's what I love about this game. In fact, I'd say in the next 12 months, in 2021, I'm playing maybe half my events in men's pro and half in senior pro. How much does pickleball?
Dave. Hold on a second.
Oh, there's a question. Is that Karen?
It is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. How are you?
Oh, great. What's your question, Karen?
No. I wanted to hold you for a second because you're not actually pausing between questions. And Roberto has got his hand up and had it up very for about 5 minutes. So I think
Roberto, you've been really patient, Roberto, and I haven't seen you, my friend. So what's up, Roberto? Roberto.
I thought maybe maybe I'll wait when there's a gap when you know you stop for a second and I'll just jump in.
He doesn't.
Thanks, Karen.
Stop.
No, well, it was just well, it was one of the questions I wanted to ask you when you arrived, but you know I'll ask you now. Maybe it's, you know it's not the right time, but I'll ask you. So I just wanted to say, well, first of all, you know, we're all thrilled to have you here. So thanks very much for joining us. I just want to ask you. So you said you play pickleball today. So where are you now, and how is it pickleball now? So do you everybody can play? Are you following any
Yes, things are really starting to open up. Right now, I'm at my home in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm married. My wife's name is Dina, and we have 3 boys who all have the pickleball addiction. So we can play a lot. We built a court at our house about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's gotten a lot of use in this whole COVID-19 world that we live in. But today I played at my country club with some friends that drove in from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area, and we played for almost 4 hours. So I'm feeling pretty good right now. But what was your question? Another question, Roberto?
No, I want to ask you. So how is it different from playing today to before the COVID? So are you following any sort of precautions? Are you is a limited number only allowed or to the courts, or how is it now? Is it normal as it used to be, or is it different?
No, it's not back to normal yet. A lot of the venues in the United States are only allowing 2 players on a court.
Right.
Most of the public places. Today we played on at a private club that does allow 4 players on a court. But mostly what's going on in America right now is you're allowed to play pickleball. The courts are opening, but they are requesting to play either 2 people per court, or if it's one family or one household, you can have 4 people playing doubles.
Oh, like in the UK, we have the same rules.
What's going on in the UK?
So it's maximum 2 people from different households, or if from the same household, I think it's 4 people can play if they're all the same household.
Sure. So similar.
So you played. So you played today. Was it like training, or was it like only 2 of you playing, or?
No. Today we played doubles at my club.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions before I go on to the next emailed question? Don't be shy with me, Richard.
How do you keep your reflexes up, Dave?
Okay.
Let's see your COVID haircut. See your COVID.
This is not a COVID haircut. This is normal. I don't have much up there. Okay, the next question is, how much does pickleball take a toll on your body after turning 50 versus when you were younger? That's a really good question. I turned 50, but I don't feel 50. In fact, I'm in better shape now at 50 than I actually was at 40, because fortunately for us, my wife does most of the grocery shopping, so she doesn't buy crap. We don't have any garbage in the house, so I can't eat that crap even if I wanted to. So we eat really healthy. I exercise pretty much every day. Even during COVID, when we were kind of shut down, we would play pickleball every day on our court, with my family. My wife and I would go for a lot of long walks. We would go biking. So when you're hyper like me, you got to stay active, baby. Okay, the next question is, do you have a favorite pickleball medal design? I'm asking because I'm a tournament director. Yeah, in fact, Sam, would you mind grabbing the medals from Nationals and the US Open, please? I'll see if my son can grab a few medals and we'll show you. Some people in our group might not be familiar with your phrase, respect the net. Please explain what you mean by that. I like this question because this phrase has gone absolutely international viral. The whole world is saying this, which is great, because when I teach, I've tried to come up with catchphrases for a lot of different, key things for different shots. And one of the key phrases that people really remember well is to respect the net. In fact, at my clinics, we all sing it. RESPECTTHENET. Everybody better know that song. Okay. What I mean, the reason I coined that phrase about 10 or 11 years ago, to respect the net, and people talk about it, but in all seriousness, what I mean by that is I teach people to not aim a ball or 2 balls over the net. I want people to give some more margin for error over the net. Way too many players feel that on their dinks and on their third shot drops specifically, they have to aim really close to the net for their balls to remain unattackable, which we all know is another phrase, another word that I use a lot in my teaching is to keep the balls unattackable. Okay. So what I mean by respect the net is give yourself some margin for error. Remember, folks, pickleball is played with basically a wiffle ball. It has a lot of holes in it. It comes down very, very quickly if you hit the ball with soft hands and a light grip pressure like what I teach. I want people to be like 3 to 4 out of 10 in their grip pressure on the paddle when they have a soft shot, like a dink or a third shot drop. And when you hit the ball, a wiffle ball, like a pickleball, with soft hands, the ball will come down very quickly. So I want people to give a lot of respect to the net and don't aim a ball or 2 balls over the net. Give it a little more respect, because I tell people in this game, you hit the ball in the net, you're done. You've lost the point, or the ball goes to the other team for a side out. You're done. Your partner can't help you. If you miss the ball just a little bit too high, at least you're still in the point. You have a chance. Give respect to that net, folks.
Would that be the same for indoor as well as outdoor, Dave?
Absolutely, Karen.
Okay.
That's the same no matter where you are playing. It's the same no matter what ball you're using. Give a lot of respect to the net, because when you hit that net, you are done. You are toast. Your partner can't help you. In fact, your partner might get a little upset at you over time if you keep doing that, right, Ron?
I don't know why you're looking at me, but
because you're in the middle of my screen, bro.
okay.
Okay, the next question is, you are well known to master the third shot drop. However, the sport has evolved, and now more and more people use the third shot as a drive and are dropping the 5th shot. Is that good or bad? Great question. A very, very common question I'm getting on every live stream I'm doing, okay? Because traditionally, everyone's taught that the third shot drop, is so important, which I agree with. In fact, I personally think, and I've said this in my videos and in my clinics, that I think the third shot drop is the number 1 most important shot in all of pickleball. And the reason I say that is because that's the shot that allows you and your partner to be able to move from the baseline to the kitchen line where we need to be to play winning pickleball. Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the third shot drop's the most important shot. Unfortunately, it's also the most difficult. Okay. The trend we're seeing more, which I think is great, is we're seeing more of a trend toward, Sam, can you grab one of my bags? The trend we're seeing is more towards a third shot drive. And I think that's a trend that's going to accelerate, because what we're seeing in pickleball is more tennis players coming into the game, especially younger tennis players that see a potential future in pickleball. Now that there's more sponsorships, we're seeing the advent of, the professional pickleball tour, the PPA, and these larger prize money. Some of our tournaments are, over $75,000 in prize money. So I think you're going to see more of these younger tennis players and even senior tennis players gravitate more to pickleball because, let's face it, there's going to be a lot more money involved. And I think potentially we're going to see television contracts and much bigger sponsorships. Even non-pickleball companies, I think, are going to get into, the pickleball. I think you're going to see, the Pepsis and the Nikes and the Under Armours, and you're going to see these guys. Once we get to 10 million players, and I think we're going to be there within 12 months, that's when these companies are going to really, I think, explode more on the pickleball scene. But this trend is going to continue, and I have no problem with it. With being able to drive the ball, especially with topspin, where the ball dips and gets actually below the net when your opponent is making contact with the ball. That's a very effective third shot when you can drive it with topspin and the ball diving down, and it forces your opponent to have to lift the ball. So that drive, and then your partner charges kind of toward the tee at the kitchen line, is a great play. So we're seeing more of that where you have a drive and charge, or a drive, test your opponent's ability to hit the volley, and then drop the shot and then come in. So I'm a fan. In fact, at my clinics, one of the questions I ask people is, after you've served, return of service come to you. So we're getting ready to hit the third shot. A common question I will ask players is, when should you drive the third shot, and when should you look to drop the third shot? The obvious answer is if the return of serve is weak, if the return of serve is short and high, where it bounces in the first half of the court and bounces to the tape height of the net or higher, that's obviously a ball that we're going to attack, and we're going to drive that ball. Okay? What's another situation where, you know, we should look to really drive that ball? Well, I would suggest that if you're playing players that are out of position, maybe one player is cheating too much towards their line to guard against their backhand, and there's a little bit of an opening, my students have the green light to drive that ball. Another scenario, that if I'm playing players that for whatever reason are weak volleyers, whether it's their forehand volley or their backhand volley, if they're weaker volleyers, I'll look to really attack that and drive it hard at them. Another scenario where I recommend players drive the third shot is if the return of serve was a really, really good return of serve. What I mean by that is a really deep return that lands, let's say, in the back foot of the court or even on the baseline. And it's going to be a really low percentage drop. So I call it a low percentage drop. When you feel you're only going to be able to make maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 drop shots because it's such a good return, don't even try to drop it. Drive that third shot, stay back, and then drop the fifth ball. Everybody with me on that conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. Any follow-up questions regarding the third shot? I'll say this to most people that start playing pickleball, they don't learn the third shot drop correctly. As I said earlier, I think it's the most important shot, but it's also by far the most difficult shot. Even the 5-0 players, even the pro players, this is the shot that they struggle with the most because it's the hardest shot. And I tell my students at my clinics and my private lessons, I'm not going to make this shot easy for you, but I'm going to make it easier if you just follow, 4 key principles on the third shot drop. Okay. Number 1 is make sure your momentum is moving forward when you hit a third shot drop. So after you serve, I want people standing behind the baseline by 1.5 feet so their momentum can be going forward when they hit the third shot drop.
Yeah.
Number 2, we got to make sure when we hit a drop shot or any soft shot in pickleball that our grip pressure on the paddle is not too tight. I would say 90% of the players that start playing pickleball in their first year of pickleball, they grip their paddle way too tight. Very similar to us golfers. Most golfers grip the golf club way too tight. Okay, and when you do that, same thing in pickleball, you lose feel. You lose control. You lose, my favorite word now is sensitivity. So let's make sure our grip pressure is 3 to 4 out of 10 anytime you have a soft shot in pickleball. Okay? So we talked about momentum forward. We talked about grip pressure. The third key thing on the third shot drop is we got to make sure that our motion is a low to high motion to create the loft. Too many people, when they first learn the third shot drop, they try to keep the ball so low. So they drive the ball in with way too much pace. And they aim like a ball over the net. And they wonder why they hit so many in the net. If you drive it with pace on all your third shots, you're 80% of the time you're either going to hit the net or it's going to go an ounce too high. And now your third shot became attackable. We need the third shot drops in the kitchen and attackable so we can move forward to the kitchen line, okay? And then the fourth and final key thing that I teach to people on the third shot drop is, it has to do with the location of the apex of the ball flight. The apex of the ball flight, and I think we all know, means the highest point of the ball flight. So if I'm hitting a third shot, I want the apex or the highest point of the ball flight to be about a foot inside of my own kitchen line. I'll say that again. When I'm hitting a third shot drop, I want the apex, the highest point of the ball flight, to be just inside of my own kitchen line. And, very important, I want the ball at the apex to be 2 to 3 feet over the net, assuming there's no wind. I want the apex to be, I want the ball to be 2 to 3 feet over the net, not over the ground, over the net. And I want it about a foot inside of my own kitchen line. You stick to those 4 key rules and key principles, folks, on your third shot drops. I guarantee that you will have a lot more consistency on your third shot drops in keeping them in the kitchen and unattackable, baby.
That's some great advice. Thank you for sharing that at no cost to us.
Well, Karen, who said no cost to you? Everybody on this thing is going to get a bill from the Badger. How long you listen, it's $8 per hour, Karen.
You heard it from him.
Hey, you know what? You know what? I love doing this. One of my passions and a key thing I say all over the world is I really have a passion for sharing the pickleball love. So I really enjoy doing this. It's a real passion of mine to teach the game and get people playing pickleball the right way, because when the points go boom, 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 and it's over, it's not fun for anybody.
No.
What makes pickleball so great of a sport is when you get long points where everybody gets to hit shots, get to execute the game, and get some good exercise, and it's so social and fun. It's not fun when it goes return of serve, hard drive, and the point's over. That's not fun for anybody. So I was very fortunate that early in my pickleball life, for me and my family, people really spent time with us and showed us the fundamentals of the game. And I feel like I owe this game a lot, and I always will continue to spread the pickleball love. Any questions on that besides Roberto and Ron and Karen? Who else wants to chime in here?
I just wanted to ask
a question.
Karen, I gotta move on to the next person, Karen.
Hey, Dave, before you forget, can you go back to the question about the tournament, the medal design, whoever asked? I'm taking notes and I want to make sure I have all my questions answered.
Here's the U.S. Open gold medal. That's one that I like because it's unique. And I like how the ball kind of stands out like that. And it's very, very colorful, as you can tell. Sam, can you find my
I have a medal that's really unique, mainly because it's the only medal that I have. So that's
not true.
This is one from, let's see,
Where
this
is it, Ron?
This is 2018 Nationals.
We can only see it as a black disc. Can you describe it?
Oh, you can't see this?
No, and hold it a little bit higher because your name is in the way.
Is that gold or bronze?
Oh.
Can't see it.
What? Who asked?
Oh.
Is this gold or bronze?
That was
Are you
Pickleball Sarah
serious?
that asked that.
Just say it's gold.
Oh, now that one we can see better.
Okay, you ready to fall asleep? Okay, my son's gonna grab another medal too, but let's move on. Any other follow-up questions before I move on to the next one?
I love the way Dave is like, hey, go get my open and national medals and bring them in here. Like,
Thanks, Sam. That's the same one. Try to grab a different one.
so casually.
Yeah.
Dave,
Dave.
Yes,
Dave, did you get some tennis trophies in your life?
I did. I was fortunate. I
You know,
played.
the whole tennis trophy thing. Don't you like that the trophies these days are like little compact little things instead of boom, 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 like taking up your whole shelf?
Yeah, I like the medals that are unique and colorful and different, not the same kind of boring. So I really advise tournament directors to try to be creative, and have a medal that looks different than what maybe somebody has already won, because a lot of them, quite frankly, are boring and look the same.
Thank you, Dave. This is
Yeah,
Sarah
you're welcome.
Aiken, and I just wanted to say, David, I agree with you. I have a couple of medals that are exactly the same from the year before, and they're not dated or anything. So I have to write on the back of them myself. I asked the question. I do really appreciate you showing us and everything.
Right. I think the back of the medal should show not only the year, but also like the event.
Right. If it's not
Yeah.
already on
Yeah.
the front.
Okay, the next question is, you are one of the players with the fastest hands in the sport. Where does that come from? How do you practice that? Well, first of all, whoever, thank you for saying that. Given a table tennis background, you got to have quick hands. And also with tennis, I was a doubles player, so I was a volleyer. So that just came natural. But to be very honest with you, because I get that comment a lot, at clinics around the country saying, you have the fastest hands I've ever seen, blah, blah, blah. I really don't have the fastest hands, folks. What I tend to do well is I anticipate where the ball is coming, maybe better than most people do. And I think that's because of my background with racket sports, is I'm able to read the angle of my opponent's paddle. So when players come to me that are 4-0 or 4-5 or 5-0 players and say, turn my game up a notch, we work a lot on not necessarily hand speed. What we work on is anticipation of where the ball is going to be. And if you watch the top players that supposedly have the quickest hands, okay, like Kyle Yates, Ben Johns, Matt Wright, I could go on. I always forget people. But yes, they have quick hands. But more importantly, they anticipate where the ball is going to be better than most. And that's what makes it look like they have the fastest hands. So I'm not saying that they have slow hands. They still have quick hands, but their anticipation. And one of the ways you can really anticipate better is to read the angle of your opponent's paddle. If I'm playing you and I'm hitting the ball hard like this, that ball is coming straight at you off my paddle. If you see my paddle like this, and I don't know if you can tell on the computer, but it's angled, okay? One of the phrases I use is, the paddle doesn't lie. The paddle doesn't lie. If a paddle is faced one direction at impact with the ball has to come off of the paddle on that angle. The paddle doesn't lie. So learn to read the face and the angle of your opponent's paddle. Don't worry, Karen. I know your check's in the mail to me. Bring it on, Karen. An hour.
Can I add something here, Dave?
Yes.
Recently I had a lesson, and the way I was slow, I was told, I was watching the ball from my paddle all the way to the other paddle. And a pro advised me, once the ball crosses the net, jump your eye to the paddle of the player you hit it to, or your partner hit it to. You already know the angle, so I know it's going to the woman or whatever. But I used to track it from the net all the way to the paddle, and then I'd be slow. If you jump your eye off the ball to that paddle, you have more time to read that angle that Dave just talked about, and then you know which way it's going back, which gives you a hair more to move your body or anticipate it, which forehand or backhand.
Yep. What I noticed in most of my students, and when I watch amateurs play recreationally and in tournaments is there's way too many players out there that are very slow with their transitioning from backhand to forehand. And one of the reasons people are really slow with that is A, their paddles are too heavy. In my opinion, there's too many players that have paddles that are 8.5, 8.8, 9 ounces. And that's too heavy, folks, for the average amateur player. There's the heavier the paddle, the slower the transition is from backhand to forehand or forehand to backhand. And I see too many players that sit with a ready position like this. Can you guys tell that I'm sitting really strong with my backhand grip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. When you sit like that as your ready position, it is going to take you forever to transition to your forehand. So what I teach and what I really preach is that your ready position with the paddle should be at 10 or 11 o'clock. I can live with either one of those. 10 or 11 o'clock. So we're not neutral, not like 10. In tennis, I teach neutral as the ready position, but not in pickleball. In pickleball, most of the shots you get will be towards your backhand. So I'm okay with 10 or 11 o'clock. In one of the drills that I do at every lesson I do, in every clinic I do, okay, is I put both players on the kitchen line opposite the net, and we do a drill where we hit punch volleys back and forth where the ball is not allowed to touch the ground. And we hit punch volleys back and forth, and we mix it up. So some are to the backhand, some are to the player's forehand, some is going right at the body. And the player has to work on their transition from forehand to backhand and backhand to forehand and the jam middle shot. And that's another way to increase not only hand speed, but to better read the angle of the ball off the paddle. So I'll repeat that drill. Both players at the kitchen line, okay, hitting punch volleys back and forth. And of course, guys, when we hit those volleys, we're always meeting the ball in front of our body, and our momentum, our upper body is also moving slightly forward. I've been people hitting volleys and falling backwards, okay? And we're moving the ball, so it's an unpredictable drill. Your opponent doesn't know if it's coming to their forehand, their backhand, or right at them. So that's a really good drill to work on hand speed, anticipation of the ball, and execution of the punch volley.
Brilliant.
Dave, hi.
Besides anybody not named Karen or Ron or Roberto?
Hey, Dave, I'm not named Karen. Not the weekends anyway. But a quick question about, hi from England, by the way. A quick question from talking about the ready position angle, the 10, 11 o'clock. That's great if you're an experienced 3.5, 4.0 player, but would you still teach that ready position 10, 11 o'clock to a brand new player?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I don't care if you're a 2.5 or a 6.0. That is the ready position.
Okay.
Okay. Next question.
That's the best time to teach them.
What kind of practice do you do, and how much playing versus drilling or training or other exercises? Question. When I have a lot of people that come far distances, to play with me in Madison, Wisconsin, and we'll spend maybe 15 to 20 minutes of doing drills before we play. If I have people coming in from out of town, if I'm drilling with one other person, then I'll just drill for an hour or an hour and a half, and then we'll play some skinny singles. And some of the order of drills that I do for warming up, and whether that's for rec play or even for tournaments, it's the same order. Number one, we warm up with dinking. And if I have 4 people on the court, we'll do a little dinking game that I like. And if anybody's been to any of my clinics on this, you would have done this. But one of the games I love to do as a warm-up game is a dinking game where all 4 players are playing. Okay, this is after you've hit maybe dinks for 2 minutes. Now you go into this little competitive dinking game where all 4 players are playing. Everyone's at the kitchen line, 1 ball, there's a feed, and then a minimum of 2 dink shots. After 2 dinks, then you're allowed to attack and speed the ball up if you get an attackable ball. So I'll repeat that. 4 players are playing. 1, everyone's at the kitchen line. There's a feed, 2 dinks at a minimum before you're allowed to speed the ball up. After 2 dinks, if you get an attackable ball, you're allowed to attack it. And then you play out the point like a real point. So I love this drill because not only does it get the competitive juices flowing, but it forces you to hit unattackable dink shots. And in that drill, there's no lobbing allowed. So the whole purpose of it is to warm up our dinks and unattackable dinks. So after I warm up dinking with my players, then I'll warm up my 3rd shot drop. Then I'll hit a few 3rd shot drives. Okay. Then we'll come to the kitchen line and we'll do the punch volleying drill. Okay. So that's about 15 to 18 minutes right there of hard drilling. And that's what I do with my people before we're going to play. If I just have one person at a training session, okay, then we'll do all these drills and then we'll do a cross court, a lot of cross court dinking, both backhand to backhand and forehand to forehand. We'll do cross court
Thank you.
ground strokes as well, both forehands and backhands. We'll do serves. So I'm a big fan of drilling. And even when I go to play, we're still going to do drills for 20 minutes before we actually play. Okay. Any follow-up questions on that before I move on? Anybody besides Karen?
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Just kidding, Karen.
Can I ask a question? I'm not called Roberto or Karen.
Okay.
Yeah, I was down. I've got access to a village hall. Is that pepperoni?
That's pepperoni. How'd you know?
I've got access to a village hall. I was down there today. Just me, Billy, no mates. I was doing some serving practice myself, but any other things that I can do by myself, bearing in mind there's ladies present, any things I can do by myself down at the village hall?
Without a ball machine or anything?
Yeah.
Is there a wall you can hit up against too that that can get the ball back to you quickly so you can work on your punch volleys?
Yeah, there's a very cooperative wall. There is.
Okay, cooperative walls are very important in life. No, I'm really a big fan of drilling with another human being. I don't do a lot of stuff off the walls or the garage or the house. I don't even own a ball machine. I like people because you get variation of shots and variation of spins and pace. So I personally don't even own a ball machine. The next question is, do you cross-train or play any other sports? What is your general fitness routine outside of pickleball? I do a lot of other sports and activities because when you're hyper and have ADHD, you got to have a lot of activities available to you. I still play tennis with my kids. 2 of my boys really love tennis, and it's a lot of fun playing with them. We play a lot of basketball at our house. I'm a golfer. In fact, before pickleball, I played 100 rounds of golf a year. Just fell in love with it. It was just a real personal challenge to learn that game and excel at it. And I got down to a 7 handicap and really was enjoying it. But since I got hooked on this game with this thing and this thing, now I play about 12 rounds of golf a year because I just enjoy pickleball so much more. And obviously I find it a lot easier and more social and doesn't take as much time. But other than that, I'm not a big cross trainer, workout guy. I don't like running because it's kind of hard on my knees. I do like biking. and do some road biking. Really enjoy biking with my wife when we have the time. But again, if we had the choice, we would play pickleball at our court versus biking. I'm trying to think of other exercise routines. Nothing other than sit-ups and push-ups. I'm not a big weight person. I get bored just working out. I need a ball and something to hit it with. Was there another?
I have a question, Dave.
Is your name Karen?
No.
I'm Mel.
Oh, if your name is not Karen, you can ask.
A lot of people are touting yoga as a new or good way to get a workout. Have you tried it as a way to stretch our muscles after playing, or have you tried yoga?
Have I tried yoga?
Yeah.
I have. I've tried regular yoga and I've tried hot yoga because my wife loves that stuff. But quite frankly, I was a little bored. I've even tried yoga on the beach at Grand Cayman Island. And even that, I'm like, okay, after 20 minutes, I'm like, I'm going snorkeling. So I have nothing against it. It just didn't do enough for me. But quite frankly, I should do it more. I should stretch more. I have no issues with yoga and hot yoga and Pilates. I mean, my feeling is the more cardio and the more exercise that you're doing for yourself and stretching, the better it is for you long term. Absolutely.
I will say that.
Do you stretch
Melanie, I'll say that I love yoga, especially chocolate yoga. That's the. Oh wait. No,
chocolate yoga.
Do you
like pizza yoga?
Do you stretch after you play?
The next question is, for years, you've played with the PaddleTech Tempest Wave paddle, and currently you've gone to the Tempest Pro. Why is it that you like it so much? Good question.
The best paddle.
I've been playing PaddleTech for really my whole pro career. I got started in PaddleTech when I met one of the owners in Arizona who at the time was making the paddles out of his garage. I mean, this is probably 7 or 8 or 9 years ago. And I originally started with their paddle that they first started with called the Element. And then I moved to the Tempest when that came out, because for me, the Tempest, which it became the Tempest Pro, and now it's called the Tempest Wave Pro. For me, it's the paddle that gives me the best combination of power and feel. Another word I use for feel now is sensitivity. So when people ask me about paddles, I don't necessarily push my paddle. I tell people, try different ones and find the paddle that gives you the best balance of power and control and feel and sensitivity. You know, the nice thing, the nice thing now is we have so many great companies out there that are making paddles. You know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, there really were 2 or 3 choices of, in my opinion, of high quality paddles. Now there's 8 or 9 or 10 really great companies out there that are making terrific paddles. And I'm really happy with the Tempest. It's now called the Tempest Wave Pro, because to me, and the reason it's PaddleTech's best-selling paddle by far, is that it has the best combination of power and feel that I think is out there on the market for doubles. Because for doubles, it's different than singles. In singles, the emphasis in singles is not necessarily on control and sensitivity. It's on power. So in singles, I use this. So in singles, I use a paddle called the Bantam XL. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. But I use the PaddleTech Bantam XL at about 7.85 ounces for singles, because the Bantam XL gives a lot more power. Doesn't have as much sensitivity as the Tempest Wave Pro, but it has a lot more power. And in singles, the emphasis is on, you know, passing shots and deep and powerful serves and deep and powerful returns of serve and hard punch volleys and passing shots. So to me, singles is a very different game than doubles. So I really like the Bantam XL Pro for singles, and I like the Tempest Wave Pro for doubles. So I'd advise you, if you haven't tried the Tempest Wave Pro that Paddletech makes, I'd give it a try, because it just feels like the ball is on the face of the paddle, slightly longer than a lot of other paddles that I've tried. Any follow-up questions on that? If your name is not Karen.
I have a question. I have a question, Dave. It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I use exactly the same paddles. So do you? And I can second what you said. I totally agree with you. Well, it's my personal opinion anyway. So do you have different paddles for outdoor and indoor, or you use the same paddles?
Same paddles. Same paddles. Sometimes, depending on the conditions I'm playing in, if I'm playing outdoors, let's say in a hot, humid environment, and we're using a soft ball. I think somebody actually asked this question. Someone said, actually the next question. Last year at the Franklin Masters, you used a Bantam XL paddle instead of the Tempest Wave in doubles. Why was that? Was it because of the Franklin ball? Wow, perfect timing, right in order.
I didn't know that. I believe me, I didn't know that.
So if I'm playing outdoors in a hot, humid environment and using one of our softer balls like the Pure 2, Onyx Pure 2 or Onyx Fuse ball, or the Franklin X ball, which tends to get a little bit softer in hot, humid, well, all the balls get softer in hot, humid conditions. So if that happens and the ball you feel like is kind of melting more on your paddle, then I'm gonna go to a paddle that has more pop and more power. And that's why I went to that in Paddletech's Bantam XL, even for doubles, in that Pickleball Masters, because it was hot, humid, and the ball was not traveling. It wasn't hot. The ball wasn't traveling what I call hot. The temperature was hot, but the ball was kind of melting on the face of the paddle. So when I was using my Tempest, the ball wasn't really coming off it very, very hard at all. It was weird. Same thing happened last year. We played in the Chicago Open last year. Was about 98 degrees with a real feel of 118.
Wow.
And we were using the Franklin ball, and it got really soft in those conditions. And the same thing's going to happen when we play. For example, if we would have had the US Open this year, the forecast was for like in the 90s. And, we would have been using the Franklin ball. So I might have gone to a more powerful paddle in those conditions as well. So thank you for that question. That's a really good question. Were there any other follow-up questions with regard to paddles?
This is Manisha.
Oh, I didn't say the weight. So for my Tempest paddle, I am at 7.6 ounces. 7.6 ounces. For my Bantam paddle, I'm in that 7.8 to 8.0 on the Bantam.
Dave, this is Manish here.
Manish, what's
Hi,
up?
Dave.
Good to see you.
Yeah, Dave, so I'm also turning 50. So the question for you is, how do you avoid injuries, or how do you deal with them?
How do you avoid injuries or deal with them?
Yeah.
Well, I've been very, very fortunate. Number one, I really try to take care of my body and also my brain. And from a nutritional standpoint, I kind of talked about that a little bit. So really in the last 3 or 4 years, I've been much more cautious on nutrition and what I eat, really avoiding, fried foods and the garbage. And fortunately, my wife does most of the grocery shopping, so we don't have that crap in the house. But and I stay really hydrated. I play a lot of pickleball. Almost every day, I'm either playing or teaching, and I always have electrolytes in my water. I drink very little, sodas, and I don't really drink much alcohol. And at tournaments, when we have these long days, I'm snacking on things like raspberries, blueberries, bananas, nuts. I really like walnuts, pistachios, cashews, and things like that. So I've been fortunate, Manish. I really haven't had any serious injuries. I mean, I'm 50 now, but I'm in better shape, I think, at 50 than I was at 40 or 45, quite honestly. So I would really watch, your nutrition. Stay very hydrated when you're exercising. Oh, Sam wants to come and say, oh, don't be shy. My youngest son, Sam, was being shy. He's usually not like that. Before I leave you today, I can introduce everybody to my family, the pickleball family. But if you do get injured, please get expert counsel on what's the best way to recover. I see way too many athletes, not just pickleball, athletes in general, that rush back to their sport or their activity too soon. And then it hampers them and it sets them back even further. So thanks for that question, Manish.
Thanks.
Follow-up questions on that if your name is not Karen or Roberto?
No, I'm actually just
spin
saying,
off on electrolytes.
Jeff has got his hands up. Jeff?
Question already answered, but
Okay.
just carry on what you're doing, Dave. When you're coming to Europe,
Dina, the battery's low. Can you plug it in?
let's
see if I can pull up the next question.
But 1 second, Dave, on that one, you mentioned electrolytes. What's your favorite electrolytes?
I've been using now Jigsaw Health's electrolytes. They have a berry flavor that I really like. It's called Jigsaw Health. They make a really, really good product that keeps you feeling good, and I like the taste of it.
And do you feel that's better than your last
as well,
one?
and a lemon lime. So I like Jigsaw, but there's a lot of good electrolyte. I've tried so many mixes over the years, and there's so many good products on the market now when it comes to electrolytes and staying hydrated. Okay, the next question is.
No, Dave, wait.
Daryl has a question.
Daryl's got his hand up real quick.
Just a quick
who's got his hand
up? Me, Daryl. Just a quick one. How often do
You might be on your second
paddle?
screen.
How often do you?
Question, Daryl.
How often do you change your paddles?
How often do I change my paddles? Good question. I would say I use a new Tempest Pro every 6 months. So I have paddles that I use for tournaments that I don't use for rec games. So I have my rec paddles and I have my tournament paddles. And when I get into a favorite one, like for like a year, this was my tournament paddle. And it was just a personal thing between the grip and the weight of the paddle and just how it felt in my hands. I would only use it for tournaments. So it lasted me a long, long time. So I'm not one that changes paddles every month or every couple of months. And these Paddletech paddles, I just don't find that they get many dead spots in them. Where my paddles tend to wear out over time is in this upper corner here. That's always where, when I'm chasing a ball, it's always where I drag it on the ground and hit the ground. So I would say maybe every 3 or 4 months I get new Tempest paddles, but I don't change out my tournament paddle that much. And as far as
the Paddletech website actually says that if you play 2 to 3 times a week, your paddle should last you a couple of years. If you play 4 or 5 times a week, you should replace it every year. So I just read that yesterday on the Paddle Tech.
Well, most people that have to replace their paddles a lot, I have found it's because they disrespect their paddles. Nicely.
Cheers.
Dave,
Yes.
Dave, do you use the same paddle, the same style of paddle for the tournament and for the regular thing? They are the same paddle. Not the
Yes.
same, but they are the same style.
Same style, same paddle. The Tempest Wave Pro is the one I use for doubles, and I use the Paddle Tech Bantam XL Pro for singles.
Yes, but you use it, like you said, you have a separate paddle for your tournament and another paddle for your regular use.
I get into these personal preferences on paddles, and if I have one that I just love, I don't want to wear it down. I don't want it to have any issues. So I tend to not overuse it, because remember, I'm on a pickleball court almost every single day. So when you play as much as I do and hit that many balls, it can wear a paddle out. But it's from a mental standpoint, I'm a little bit hypersensitive to. I mean, this for a year. This was my tournament paddle. Lasted a year, and I play a lot of tournaments. Okay. Next question, please.
Thanks.
Sure. Anybody?
Yes, actually, when I talk to a tennis player that's never played pickleball before, I usually, because Ben lives in our area, Ben Johns, I liken him to Roger Federer. So, Dave, who would you be on the tennis scene?
McEnroe. Who would I be on the tennis scene?
McEnroe. Who would you liken yourself?
Man,
Yeah,
you know,
McEnroe.
that's a good question. Who said McEnroe?
I did.
Ron did. Ron.
What?
That was it, exactly. What?
Yeah, you are.
Be serious. I think Melody would agree with me.
Ron, what are you looking at, Ron? What are you looking at? You can't be serious, Ron. You know, I'm a huge tennis fan, and I grew up a huge tennis fan, so I have so many favorites there, and I don't know necessarily their personalities off the court. I certainly have aspects of John McEnroe in terms of the intensity, but I don't know about verbal barrages on the court, Ron. I don't know if that's fair.
No, you are sweet.
Don't do that.
I would say I have the same competitive instincts as a Rafa or Roger. I'm a huge Novak Djokovic fan because of his ability to really hyper focus on a task at hand. He tends to play his best in the majors. And I think that for me, over the years, I've always played my best. The bigger the match, I feel like the best I've played. I've played my best matches in the finals of, you know, the US Opens or Nationals or, you know, the biggest, you know, USAPA, you know, regional tournaments. I just feel like I have the ability to really hyper focus on a task at hand. The bigger the stage, the more I'm able to focus. So I personally play a lot better in tournaments than I do in rec play. In rec play, yes, I'm serious. Yes, I want to win, but it's more about fun and getting some exercise and having a good time and joking around and socialness. I play by far my best in tournaments, which unfortunately most of what we see is the opposite of that. Most people in tournaments, they get tight and they get nervous and they're not able to execute, you know, as well. I would say 80% of the players that play better in rec play than they do in tournament play.
What advice would you give to somebody who has that problem?
You know, I got that question the other night, and when we were talking about the mental approach to the game, because it's such a common theme. And there's really 3 tiers of advice, okay? Number 1, in a tournament, make sure you talk to your partner before every single match about a strategy and your approach to that specific match. And don't look ahead, okay? Go in with a strategy and try to really have the attitude that you're gonna hyper-focus on the execution of that strategy and have that really encompass your mental state and really be focused on that process of executing that strategy. We human beings, we are so results oriented. And whether it's sports or business or life in general, we all are so results oriented. If you watch people play this game, watch when they hit a ball, watch how 90% of the time they aren't watching their contact position with the ball on the paddle. They're looking and focusing on the result. And that's why so many of us hit the ball, you know, here or here or here. So many balls get hit on the edges of the paddle, okay? And as we all know, you get a totally different experience in pickleball when you hit the ball here versus here or here. Unlike strings-based sports like tennis or squash or racquetball, you can get away with an off-center hit in strings-based sports, but not in pickleball. You get an entirely different result in this game when you do not hit the middle of the paddle. So I really try to get my students to focus on the process of executing the shot and not be too focused on the result. So that's one thing. The second way to kind of keep your partner relaxed and a little bit in a better position to execute and not get too nervous is smile with them, joke with them. It's unbelievable when a human being smiles or laughs. It's unbelievable what that does to their overall mantra or their mentality. You can execute so much better when you're in a more relaxed mode. So if you watch me play, even in tournaments, I'm always razzing my partner about something or making something to try to get them to laugh and smile or chest bump them or do something fun, because human beings execute better when they are having fun or they're more relaxed. So try those things next time you're playing a tournament, not only to help you, but to help your partner. Other questions? Okay, the next one on the list here. And we're getting through this too. We're getting through this, buddy. How's everything in Finland, my friend?
Oh. Very light out.
I was muting my mic. Oh, everything's great. Thank you.
Well,
played 2.5 hours this morning. I'm happy.
Cool. I want to get to Finland and share the pickleball love someday, my friend.
Oh, you're so welcome.
We're going to make that happen, you and I.
Yeah,
excellent.
Sure.
I'm going to bring the whole family.
Brilliant.
Okay, name some of your favorite opponents in doubles and why. That's another question I get a lot. And in men's doubles, I obviously like to play against the top players. Even if I lose, I want to challenge myself against the best. So I love playing against, Ben Johns. I love playing against Kyle Yates. I love playing against Matt Wright. I enjoy playing against McGuffin and Newman and the Mumbai Monster. And I'm always gonna forget Mumbai Monster. Manish, you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Pickleball is the most fun for me when you get really long, drawn out points that require not only a good execution of the shot, but also high level strategy. So you get that challenge, and then it's so much more rewarding, when you win. And, fortunately now we have so many great players out there. You take anybody in the top 15 in the world and you're going to have a great match on your hand. In terms of on the men's senior pro side, I love playing against Scott Moore, Dane Gingrich, Chris Miller, Steve Kennedy, Steve Dawson. These are all just terrific players, and you don't let that senior thing mislead you. These guys can flat out play. you know. So, and on the women's side, in mixed doubles, it's always a challenge to play against, you know, the best players, you know, like Lucy and Simone and Irina and Christine and Sarah and Lee and Annalie and I can go on and on and on, and I always forget names, but it's just a lot of fun playing with those players and against them. I've been very fortunate on the men's side to have basically played with just about every one of those top guys. Love playing with Matt Wright. I've played with Ben Johns, obviously Kyle many times, and it's just it's wonderful playing with these guys, and they're all so and fun, and I communicate really well with them. So that's a key thing with me when I'm looking at partners is it's got to be someone I'm obviously comfortable with and can communicate well with, but also that we can develop a strategy together for each match. Over the years, I've gotten to play a lot with Stephanie Schauslane, who was a really good developer of a game plan. And it's such a challenge to not only develop the plan, but then try to execute that. And that's one of the kind of the games within the game that I love about tournament pickleball. Okay. The next question was, tell us about how the PPA got started. A lot of you are probably aware that we've formed the Professional Pickleball Association. Last year, Connor Pardo and his dad, Dirk Pardo, and Dirk's brother formed the PPA and brought me on board fairly early on to be on the board and kind of be the pro player liaison. And this was such an exciting thing for me to be involved with. I really was anxious to work with these guys and help them because they already had all the sponsors lined up. They had the money for this tour guaranteed for at least 3 years. So there wasn't a lot of pressure on having to raise money really early on. And I just felt that this sport was ready for a professional tour. And we started off in Phoenix and Mesa, and what a hit. Hopefully some of you guys got to come to that. I know Ron was there refereeing, and Ron can talk about what an incredible atmosphere that was. And so the PPA, Professional Pickleball Association, formed because of the sport. This has gotten to a stage where we're ready for a pro tour. And these guys that had this vision, it wasn't me. I came on later on. It was really Connor and Dirk Pardo and their family that had this vision. And they live in Utah, where pickleball is just has exploded. It's one of the pickleball hotbeds of the country is Utah. People don't realize it, but it's not just the Salt Lake City area. When you get north of Salt Lake, everyone knows Tournament of Champions, TOC, but they don't necessarily know that it's played in Brigham City, Utah, this tiny little town an hour north of Salt Lake City, this great little community. I have a lot of friends there now, and I just love going there. And another area, St. George, Utah, which is in the southern tip of Utah, about an hour and 40 minutes from Las Vegas, is a huge pickleball hotbed. I've been there a number of times for tournaments. And so these guys in Utah came up with this vision and brought me on board early. And it's just really exciting because our tournaments have anywhere between $55,000 and $155,000 of prize money. And we're doing these tournaments at very exclusive venues. We're not doing these tournaments at, public parks around the country. In fact, our next tournament's going to be at a private club in Newport Beach in August. Hopefully a bunch of you guys are going to be there, but it is going to be incredible. If you haven't looked at the website, go to www.professionalpickleballassociation.com and you can see the entire schedule mapped out. In fact, the schedule for next year is just about done. Connor and crew have done a terrific job, but we're going to be going to places like Las Vegas, Toronto, Southern California, Scottsdale, Dallas, Atlanta, And all of these tournaments are going to be at private, pretty exclusive clubs that all have a stadium court where we can get, 400 or 500 people watching live on stadium court. In addition to, obviously, all of these tournaments are contracted to have professional live streams going. So high quality video, high quality professional commentators that are hired to do these. So we are so excited about the PPA going forward. And, there's another great tour called the APP Tour that also has a lot of great tournaments lined up over the next year. So folks, pickleball and tournament pickleball is absolutely exploding, and it's coming to your town. Now we got to get it coming to Finland and Europe. And Manish, I'm going to come to India, baby. We're going to make this happen. We're going to bring the Mumbai Monster with me.
If you've got all these tours, how will you have time?
We're going to make time because, what we're trying to do with the PPA is we want to have one tournament every, 6 to 8 weeks is kind of our goal. So every 6 to 8 weeks, we want to have a pro tournament. And that's the goal there.
Will they be all indoors or outdoors?
The PPA tournaments are all outdoors with indoor backup plans in case of rain. A lot of our venues will have a backup plan in case of rain. What other questions regarding the professional pickleball tour or pickleball tournaments in general?
When are you planning to come to Europe, Dave?
Europe, we have to make that happen. So I don't have anything scheduled right now. I was just in the Baja Peninsula in Mexico at a unbelievable pickleball resort called Tres Palapas. Maybe some of you have seen this.
That's for sale.
I just did a pickleball camp and a bunch of clinics down there in March. And that was a lot of fun. That was pre-COVID, so I could get down there and took my son and he helped me out with that and met a lot of great people. But I don't have any other international tours planned as of now, but I do want to get some stuff on the calendars. So if you're in a large, pickleball area and you think the demand would be there, reach out to me, private message me, and we certainly can talk privately.
Okay, cool.
Any questions regarding tournament pickleball or the tour?
Dave, are you solely scheduled to play in only PPA, or can you play in both?
No. You can play in any tournament. The PPA is not exclusive, contractual with a player. So I'm playing some other events in addition to the PPA events. But what you're seeing is most of the top, the top 10 pros are basing their entire schedule around the PPA events because they're the most exclusive tournaments with the highest payouts and at the nicest venues. But players can play any tournaments of their choosing. Players control their schedule, not a specific tour. Good question. Okay, it looks like the next question is, how do you see pickleball growing as a world sport? Yes, it's one of the fastest growing sports, but how can we get more countries involved? Great question. It's one that I've actually thought about over the years because even though I don't do pickleball, it's not what I do for a living. It is a huge passion of mine, and I do get around the world and teach this great game because I love doing it and I love meeting people. And we all know that pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America, but also the world by far. There's not even a close number 2 right now in terms of the fastest growing sport. And what it takes is ambassadors or pickleball people to bring it to a community, show and teach the fundamentals, and then those communities will build courts and it will absolutely explode. We've all heard the phrase, you build it and they will come. I guarantee you, when courts get built and constructed internationally at different geographic areas, people will come. and it will explode. And, the IPTPA has done a great job of really spreading the pickleball love around the world. And I know, you guys, that are, international are doing a great job of getting the word out and getting the game out. A question I get asked a lot is, do you think pickleball will ever be an Olympic sport? And I say, I absolutely think it will, but maybe not in my playing lifetime. I always say, I want to be the first Olympic coach because I'll be too old to be a player. So I do think that eventually pickleball will be in enough countries, played at such a competitive level in those respective countries, that it will indeed be a pickleball sport. But it's not going to be in the next 10 years, folks. Let's not be, crazy. But I do think it will happen eventually.
Hey, and give me just a couple moments here, Jeff. Hold on. So the IFP, and I made this announcement earlier, but some other people have joined in. We're up to 46 worldwide ambassadors, and I'm taking applications. So send me a private message. And the IFP's sole mission is to spread it to enough countries so that we can qualify for the Olympics. Olympics are still 15 to 20 years away easily. It's a hard road to hoe to get into the Olympics, but that's what we're working on, and it will take ambassadors to spread the word. So private message me.
Absolutely. Any other questions regarding, the growth of pickleball? Okay. The next question is, what is your dream for pickleball in the future? So we kind of just touched on that. And, obviously it's a huge passion of mine to spread the love. I'm not worried about pickleball growing and pickleball being this huge, huge sport globally. That is absolutely going to happen. It's just a matter of when it gets to these specific geographical, places. A dream of mine would be to, between all the videos that are out there and with the advent of the internet, people can learn this game so much easier now than they could 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. There's so much great instruction available online for free. I've done a lot of videos myself and never charged anybody a dime. I've never charged Pickleball Channel or anybody anything to do these videos because I want people to learn this game the right way. So that's kind of a dream of mine, is for people to learn pickleball the right way, so it's so much more enjoyable for people, and better exercise and longer points and more fun and more social. And that's a real passion of mine. And it's a dream of mine to not only write a book, but to do a series of instructional videos as well that people can have access to, that is a little more of a coherent package that takes people through, that. And I think it's great now that there's so much available online that no matter, I don't care if you're in Central Africa or Hong Kong or Taiwan or Seoul or Helsinki, you have access to great instruction and can learn the game. And the other cool thing about pickleball is there's very little barriers to entry. It doesn't take much to be able to start. It's not like golf where you got to have a golf course and you got to have clubs and it's pretty expensive. With pickleball, all you need is a place to play. The paddles are not that expensive. The balls are not that expensive. That's one of the cool things about pickleball is there's lack of barriers to entry. It's very easy to get started. And we just talked about how it's easy to learn the game. Are there other questions if your name is not Karen? Just kidding, Karen.
I have one.
Yes.
And again, I came about 5 minutes late, so I'm not sure if you said this in your introduction, but a couple of times you've noted that pickleball is not your main employment, or that's not what you live on. So what is your background, or what is your real job that isn't pickleball?
My real job is I'm in the investment business. I was a business and finance major at the University of Wisconsin. So right out of college, I started in the investment business. So 7 or 8 years ago, I started my own firm. So I'm the president and CEO of Weinbach Investment Management, which is a RIA, registered investment advisor in Madison, based in Madison, Wisconsin here. So I manage high net worth clients' money, and that's what I do for a real job.
Okay, thank you.
And I love doing it.
Hilarious at the moment.
Yeah, it's been interesting times. But I love what I do. I've done it my whole career. It's a real interest and passion of mine. I would be a portfolio manager as a hobby if I didn't do it for a living. I love doing it. And similar to pickleball, I get to meet a lot of really neat and cool people. And I've had, some of the same clients for 25 years. And it's just great. And I get to live in Madison and raise my family in Madison, Wisconsin, which is one of the coolest places on earth. I've been all over the world. And this Madison, Wisconsin, if you've not been here, folks, come visit us. You can come to Weinbach Court and we'll play. But Madison's the capital of Wisconsin. It's also the home of the University of Wisconsin.
It's a cool place. I've been there.
Beautiful lakes within 15 miles of me. We're big water people, and my wife likes to water ski, as do I, and the kids like to tube, and I like to fish. So it's a great place, and it's a wonderful place of diversity. All different ethnic cultures are here. Any kind of food and restaurants that you want are here. I'm kind of biased because I live here, but I could have my business anywhere, and this is where I would enjoy to have my firm and raise my family. The next question is.
Hey, Dave.
Oh, I wonder who could have asked this. Any plan to visit India and start a teaching academy? Well, Manish, if you are willing to host me, and I know you've offered many times, and I promise you, I will come to India. I don't know if I'll start a teaching academy there because I kind of have a business to run here in Wisconsin in the United States. So I probably won't start a teaching academy there, at least not in the next 10 years. But I'm definitely going to visit you, and I want to see all of India. So my man, it's going to happen.
Tour guide as well.
The Mumbai Monster has already told me I'm not allowed to go to India without him. So Altaf Merchant, you're coming with me, baby.
How far away do you think we are from players really being able to have a career of just pickleball?
Oh, I
know
think
there are
we're
a few
already
doing
there. We're
a few
already there. We are
players?
already seeing many players, many professionals that all they do is pickleball, because with the advent of the PPA and these huge prize money, I mean, some of these tournaments in the PPA are over $100,000 in prize money. So between the prize money, teaching, between doing clinics and private lessons and group lessons, doing exhibitions all over the country, sponsorships are really growing. There's a lot of professional players that are already making a living just through pickleball. I'm not one of them. I mean, I personally feel that puts kind of pressure on your game and on the sport internally when you're doing it as a business and for a living, and might take a little bit of the enjoyment out of it. Not for everybody, but for me, it's always going to be a game that I love to compete at, and I love growing, and it's a passion to teach. But I'm never going to look at it as my sole source of income. But we're already there where a lot of players are, and quite frankly, living a nice lifestyle just from pickleball.
How far away are we from needing a pickleball agent for pro players? Or would they really use a regular sports agent that's going across many sports?
I think that in some cases we're already there. I mean, I have a lawyer that helps me with my contracts, with my sponsorships. So, and I'm not the only one. So we're already there with a few players with legal help with pro contracts in terms of sponsorships. So
right, but let's say going out and getting the Pepsi or getting the Gatorade, recruiting
that trend is only going to accelerate as we start to get the bigger sponsorships. And as I indicated earlier on the call, I think what's going to really move this forward is when we get to the 10 million player number. And I think we're about a year away from having 10 million pickleball players, probably just in the US. We might even be there now when you add, the whole global scheme. Okay, we got time for 2 more questions. Who's next?
Dave, just one thing I want to say. One of our friends in this meeting today is celebrating his birthday, so I thought it'd be nice to say happy birthday to him.
What's his name?
Keith Ramos.
Keith Ramos. Happy
Happy
birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday from the Badger, Keith.
Thank you all.
Happy birthday, Keith.
Appreciate it.
All right. Who's got
Feliz
another?
cumpleaños.
Gracias.
En español, feliz cumpleaños, mejor.
¡Ah, español!
Sí.
¡Poco español!
Dave, cuando quieras te esperamos en España.
¿De dónde eres tú?
De Madrid.
¡Oh, Madrid! ¡Ah, sí, Madrid!
We are waiting for you.
Madrid es muy bonita y más fuego.
Sí. Fuego, lo que quieras.
Ya. ¿Quieres in Madrid someday? Yes. Sí.
Cuando tú quieras. When do you want? We organize an international tournament in September, not this year, but next year. We are waiting.
It would be great to come to Spain to do a combination of a tournament and also do a bunch of clinics and camps, so we can so Dave Weinbach can share the pickleball love throughout all of Spain, not solamente Madrid, but todos Spain.
Yeah, it's difficult to visit all Spain, but you practice Spanish, and when you come.
Dave, en español.
Juegas tenis and clay, por favor.
Vamos aquí a lo que quieras. Organize another sport.
Yes.
A paddle. You play paddle?
Hema, Dave is all yours after he and his family have been to Finland like 4 weeks. He's all yours.
Hey, Torvo, don't you have a tournament next summer? Isn't that the Finland summer tournament?
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
That's
what I plan on being there. So I hope you have a tournament when I come.
You're coming next year?
Yeah.
Am I coming to Helsinki next year?
Yes, you are.
There you go. We'll meet there.
When is the Helsinki tournament?
Well, so far it has been like early June. First or second weekend of June.
2 is going to private message me about that.
I will.
All right. Who wants the last question, or maybe 2 more?
Dave. Dave Wood here from Margate in Kent. I don't know if you can hear me, but quick question from me, technical wise, but stacking wise, I've always thought that, for me as a 50 plus player playing at 4-0 with my partner, Julie Mack, she's a left-handed, I'm a right-handed. We're equally as good as each other, both forehand, backhand. We play at 4-0, but we'd like to get to 4.5. Is stacking something that is that inevitable that we're going to do that? Or is that something that,
It is, I'll say this, it's not inevitable. It's not a must that you have to do that, okay? I wouldn't force it and say you have to, but I'll say this. I love playing with lefties, and I always stack. Personally, I like to stack when I have a left-handed partner. And the reason is because that puts my forehand, both forehands in the middle, which to me is a position of strength. okay, when your forehand is in the middle, I think that's a position of strength. So when I play with a lefty, I fully stack both the serve and the return. I stack so the right-handed player is on the left side of the court.
Yeah.
And the left-handed player is on the right side of the court.
Yeah.
And that way, most of the balls you hit should be forehands. You can step a little bit closer to the sideline, and I kind of bait people into trying to go down the middle forehand, and then that's a position of strength. So thank you so much for that question.
No problem, and thank you so much for this evening. And we'd love to see you in Pickleball England, US, the Open playing next year at Nottingham. So thank you.
I would absolutely love. I've never been to England.
Oh my gosh.
I would love to get to England, and I have a friend in Huddersfield. Huddersfield.
In where?
You've got to come to us. You've got to come to us.
Huddersfield.
Where's that?
It's up north, Roberto.
Yeah, but I have friends in London.
I don't even know what that is.
It's always a dream, of course, to see Wimbledon, even if it's not during the tournament. I'd love to see the ground. So we will definitely get to London. It's just a matter of time, my friend.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Is there one more question?
Nope.
Oh.
Okay, well, you know what?
Ask a question then.
This has been.
Wait, Karen has the last question.
Karen! I thought I got rid of you, Karen.
Of course, Karen.
I thought we kicked Karen off of this.
Never. You can't get rid of Karen. She's always there.
Okay, Karen, you got it. Last one.
Well, you were saying about you love to share the pickleball love, and you've also said about the PPA and the APP tour. I wonder, you know, how much with all those tours that are going on, it will actually reduce the amount of time you can share the pickleball love.
It doesn't, because what I do when I go to a tournament, I always will fly in or travel in a day early, a day or two early, because as long as I have my iPad or my computer and my phone, I can work remotely. So I don't have to necessarily be sitting in my office. So I try to get to venues early and offer clinics or private group lessons so I can spread the pickleball love no matter where I am in the world. And the Weinbach Sharing the Pickleball Love, Karen, is going to come to you soon.
I hope so. I really hope so. You know, you've been fantastic today, Dave. You really have. And you've been so generous with your time. I'm sure we all appreciate it. And Tuomo, thank you for making it happen. It's been fantastic.
Yes.
You're welcome. Thanks, Dave. This has been
Thank you, Dave.
absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, Dave.
There's